Hello guys, welcome back to the video. I am Amoga B. If you are visiting this channel for the very first time, please do hit the subscribe button and press the bell button to get an updates, regular updates. So what's going on? So today let us discuss about an Reef chips. So this is another chips which is easier, faster with an 5G networks, which they are going to be implemented by a Nokia people in an upcoming days. So the main features of this Reef chips are, so as per the company, they are telling that they are massively MIMO. So MIMO stands for multiple input, multiple output. So you can have many number of inputs and many number of outputs simultaneously. So it is one form of an parallelism. So you can have more number of data input and data output simultaneously. So this is the very first feature which have been provided in an ReefShark chips. And next one is antenna size is going to be reduced for the half of the existing smartphones. So due to this, 70% power consumption is going to be happen. So in order to understand this, you need to understand the concept of how this antenna are going to propagate or generate an energy. So antenna will be having two phases. One will be conductor or an power generating unit, and another one will be an reflectors. So the electrons will be generated from an conductors, will hit the reflectors and come back to the conductors, and this process goes on till this electron are going to reach some specific power. When the specific power is going to be reached, so this electron is going to be emit to the surface. So that is called as an propagation or an space propagations. So whenever the energies are going to be met with some of the threshold, so this electron are going to come up with any of the sides. It can be an conductor side or it can be an reflector side. So that power are going to be released to an space. So these waves are going to be propagated in a space for an reaching an destination. So how this antenna size is going to make an impact on an power consumption. So you can see that if the size of the antenna was like this, so the space between an conductor and reflectors will be more. So due to this, the time taken by the electron to reach the maximum power is going to be more. So in an ReefShark chips, so the antenna size have been reduced to half of the current smart antenna size. So the time required to reach the threshold by the electrons is considerably less as compared to an existing smartphones. So this is another advantage which have been listed in an ReefShark chips. And the next advantage is they have been introduced an artificial intelligence. So this artificial intelligence have been embedded into an chips. So due to an embedding of an artificial intelligence, so there is a mix of knowledge which they have been concentrating the fields like optics. So the TIS, or which is the optics which have been available for an smoother communications are going to be decided by an artificial intelligence. The next field is RF. So which radio frequency should be opted for specific location. See, consider with some of the smaller metropolitan cities. So that smaller metropolitan cities will be having 4Gs or 3Gs. So this artificial intelligence should be intelligent enough to switch between an 5G, 4G, 3G or any of the Wi-Fi which have been available at that respective location. And the next advantage is software and innovation on house silicon chips. So software and innovations. So by making and software innovations, the people of the Nokia or a Nokia developers can understand the needs of the customers. So once the customer needs are going to be declared or accepted by the Nokia people, they can just suggest the more efficient solutions for solving the customer needs. So one is opting the optics, which optics, and opting the which radio frequency, and next one is software implementations, and they are going to take the customer feedbacks. So these are all the some of the important things which are going to be get covered in an Reef Shark chips. So this is what the ReefShark chips are going to be coming for an future days. So this is so the Nokia people have been provided some of the benefits. So ReefShark packs more functionality into an 50% smaller hardware compared to an products that are using the discrete components. Mean to say, so the ReefShark functionality are going to occupy the 50% of an silicon area as compared to an existing smartphones. So the smartphone size can be reduced. So the smartphone's battery size can be reduced. The mobile sizes can be reduced by having an ReefShark packages. So the component size is going to be considerably shrunken to 50% compared to an existing smartphones. So ReefShark chipset decreases the antenna size. So this one I have been talked earlier. So by decreasing the antenna size, we can make an power consumption with an considerable level. So due to an power saving for an antenna size, they have been achieved an 70 to 80% of power consumptions, so that they can enhance the battery level of the smartphones, or it can be any of the variable devices, or it can be any sorts of an handbags, or it can be an smartwatches. So anything they can plan with. So they have been achieved an 70 to 80% of power saving due to the reduction in the antenna size. So it is also having, and the last thing is they are going to have an intelligent unit, artificial intelligence. They can come up with an face unlocking or any sorts of an machine learning process which they can going to be get implemented on an embedded systems. So the highlights of this ReefSharks are, so the size is going to be considerably less. So they are going to achieve an 70 to 80% of power usages. So based on the, so they have been provided with a 3GPP based 5G radio technique. So this is the radio technique which have been opted by a Nokia people. So this is a standard. So 3GPP, it is a standard which have been located by an 5G new radio standards. So 5G will be having some spectrum. So this spectrum are going to have an standards that is named as an 3GPP. So due to this, they are going to achieve an uninterrupted exchange of network from 5G, 4G or any sorts of an Wi-Fi. So the main aim of an 5G is to provide an uninterrupted services to the customers. So this is all about the ReefShark chips which are going to be get published by the Nokia people in an upcoming days. So next is I am going to talk about an constraints in an 4G network and what is the need of an 5G networks. So in an 4G networks, consider for an per kilometer. So this 4G can attend up to 1000 customers. They can manage up to 1000 customers per kilometer. So whenever you are going for a higher density area, so this 4G can enable to provide the all number of features to the customers. So the 5G have been coming into an picture. They can support up to 1 million of an customers per kilometer. You can have an pinpoint customer services attained. So any of the high density area also you can just satisfy the customer needs. And the next point is latency. So latency in 4G is 50 microseconds. So which is exactly half the 3G latency. So 3G is going to provide an 100 microsecond latency. So latency is the delay. Delay means so how fast your device are going to respond for an external events. So for an 4G networks the latency is 50 milliseconds. So for an self-driving car applications or any sorts of an primitive or an very delicate applications, we need still more lesser latency. So hence we are moving for an 5G networks. And the last benefit of an constraints in an 4G is throughput of an 4G is 10 times more than the 3G. Mean to say 4G is 10 times more efficient than an 3G. But coming for playing for an videos which are having an high definitions, so ultra HD, or it can be an 4K movies or playing some of an 4K videos. So this 4G network are unable to sustain all these kinds of an 4K high videos or an high definition videos. So constraints are like 1000 customers, latency, and then it is unable to play back the high resoluted images or an videos. So the need of an 5G is, we are knowing that it is going to make an global standard for communication, which allows the device to switch without having any interruptions. So this is the main aim, without having delay or disconnect to the network. So this is the main aim for designing an 5G networks. So the benefits of an 5G networks is, they are going to increase the bandwidth. So once the bandwidth is going to be increased, so the more number of users can enjoy the same level of speed of the network. See, consider if the baseband is of providing an 1 MB per second or an data speed. So this is for an explanation sake. So 5G will be providing more than an 1 MB per second. For an explanation sake, I am saying that if the data is providing and baseband is providing 1 MB per second, if the bandwidth is less, consider the bandwidth is capable of sustaining only 100 customers for per square meters or an per square kilometers. So if that is bandwidth is only for 100 users, if the 110 users coming to a picture, the bandwidth is unable to provide the 1 MB per second speed. So here in an 5G, they have been enhanced the bandwidth, so they can support up to 1 million or an 10,000, 1 lakh more customers for per kilometer. So this is the main advantage here, enhancing the bandwidth, and they have been considerably reducing the latency. So latency is like delay in providing any of the services to the customers. It has been considerably shrunken because of massive MIMO. So this type of applications can be going for an high speed satellite access. So this is one of the application of an 5G benefits. And the next benefit is IoT devices. In an upcoming years, so IoT and machine learning are the two massive fields. They are going to rule the industries for upcoming 10 to 15 years. So in order to have an IoT devices, so this IoT devices will be constantly accessing the networks and the GPS. So whenever the device is accessing the network and an GPS, so it is going to drain the battery. So the battery is going to be get drained. So the 5G have been designed in such a manner that, so whenever this IoT is going to access any sorts of 5G networks, so instead of pumping in more energy from an IoT devices, so we are having a more number of towers with respect to a more number of base stations. So when the IoT device is lesser distance with an base station, so the power used to push the signals will be considerably less. So hence the power consumption of that IoT device will be shrunken. So the battery size can also, we can shrink it as the towers or the base stations will be nearer to the customers. The last beneficiary is city centers, office buildings or and stadiums. So the area density. So the area density will be varying in an city centers, office buildings and stadiums. See, consider a city centers. So the traffic will be very much more during the peak hours. So during peak hours only the more number of signals are going to be get used. So during this time the 5G is very much essential. So during peak time it is going to make a match of an bandwidth for every user, and they are going to have an required enjoyment of their respective requirements. And next one is office building. they are going to work for a day shift. So in a night they are not going to have any of the traffic. So during daytime or during peak hours, so this 5G is going to provide an satisfaction for the customers. And the stadiums, so the stadiums will be highly populated during the events of sports or during the events, or it can be any sorts of an opening ceremonies, or it can be any sorts of an events, it can be an special occasions of a country. So during those times many people will be accumulated at a stadium. So during this condition the 4G is unable to provide the network, so the bandwidth will be very much lesser. If we are having an enhancement of an bandwidth, we can accumulate more number of customers at an stadiums. So this is the reason why if the people are more than 1000 or 2000, or it can be an 1 lakh in an per kilometer, we will be having an busy signals or not reachable signals. So that was the deficiency of an 4G, 3G or 2G's networks. So that was the bandwidth allocations for per kilometer. So unavailables or sudden change in the number of the people in the special occasions are not going to be get entertained in an 4G. So the 5G is going to play a very important role because of its higher bandwidth, so because of its minimum latency, because of its and more number of customers are going to be get satisfied with an requirements. It can be an 10 MB per second or 1 GB per second, etc, etc. So you can have an IoT devices connected to your networks. So these are all the benefits of an 5G networks. Please do subscribe, please do keep sharing and keep subscribing for this channel for an upcoming videos on technologies. Thanks for watching this video.